Just when you thought Sony had seen the worst of it, they come back to try to justify why their films were bad to begin with. And let me tell you, none of them get the point across. Over the past year and a half, Sony has successfully failed to make an actual good film related to Spider-Man's villain. Some of them okay, some of them absolutely atrocious, but together resonated with fans as being terrible. And with the horrible release of Kraven, that basically just solidified it for fans. Don't ever make another film like this again. And just when you thought things had died down and they'd actually start thinking about ways to make better films, they come out with this. Sony Pictures CEO confirms that they're rethinking of the future of the Spider-Man villain spin-off films. Kraven the Hunter is the worst launch since he became CEO in 2017, agreed. Doesn't think they are bad films and blames the critics for crucifying them. If we put another one out, it's gonna be destroyed no matter how good or bad it is. Instead of trying to double down saying it's not good, realize from your mistakes and work off of that. Because number one, they were bad films. The stories were bad, the way you went about making them was terrible, and only in one instance did you ever include Spider-Man. That's the reason why it didn't do well. Sony actively jumped the gun thinking it was fine to not use Spider-Man after the events of the first Venom. That single idea, single point, is what caused the downfall of Sony's Spider-Man villains. Oh, and it gets better. A little cherry on top, Sony Pictures CEO insists that Madam Web isn't a bad film. Madam Web underperformed in theaters because the press just crucified it. It was not a bad film and did great on Netflix. The only reason it did good on Netflix is because you didn't have to pay to see it. I paid for it and regretted doing so. The story was terrible. Not a single mention of Spider-Man. Characters, forgettable. And the main villain, ass at that. Not to mention, the voice lines didn't even match up with him. This movie was a shit show in itself. From the start, it was bound to do bad. Again, the single reason this did not do as well as you thought it would was because of your lack of Spider-Man. The only franchise of the Sony Spider-Man villains that did decently well was Venom. But even then, you screwed it up towards the end and kind of just left it at a cliffhanger that wasn't really needed. How do you introduce a big bad like that and leave it at the worst cliffhanger imaginable? That's something you don't do. When you do something like that with fans that are big fans of Marvel, they're not gonna take kindly to that. And to go off of this, the critics were not crucifying them. They were being legit. And I know that the majority of them can be hard on a lot of films, but they were not wrong about these. It is a matter of making it to where fans want to watch it, are looking forward to the next project. And you all failed to capitalize on that.